My bride walked out with her ex in front of 180 guests right before our wedding. I used the paid reception as my goodbye party, left the state that week, and 2 years later, she is desperate to find me again. All right, Reddit, buckle up, because this story is absolutely insane, and my buddy Jake convinced me it needed to be shared. This happened in June of 2022, and even now I am still processing the sheer audacity of what went down. My name is Kyle. I was 29 years old at the time, and I worked in industrial equipment sales for a manufacturing company based in Pennsylvania. I had been with the same company since I graduated. I started at entry level, worked my way up over 6 years, and eventually became an account manager. I made decent money, owned my own condo outside Pittsburgh, drove a paid-off 2016 Ford F-150, and had a solid 401k going. I was not flashy, but my life was stable, comfortable, and predictable in a way I was proud of. That truck was my pride and joy. I bought it certified pre-owned from a dealer that actually maintained its inventory instead of just throwing wax on junk and calling it clean. It had the crew cab, the tow package, the works. During the first month I owned it, I installed a bed liner and upgraded the sound system because factory speakers always sound like they are playing music through a tin can. After watching most of my buddies cycle through relationships that blew up over dumb arguments, commitment issues, and people who had no idea what they wanted, I had basically written off finding someone serious. I focused on work, stayed in shape, and spent my free time restoring a 1969 Mustang I had bought from an estate sale. The engine was completely shot, but the body was solid, and that was enough for me. Then my sister threw a barbecue in August of 2019, and that was where I met Caitlyn. Caitlyn seemed like everything I did not know I was looking for. She was a 4th grade teacher at a private school downtown, and she had one of those laughs that made everyone around her smile. She wore dresses that actually looked put together, not like she had grabbed whatever was closest to the door. She had this wholesome energy about her, the kind that made you want to be a better person just by being near her. We hit it off immediately over the grill. She told me it was refreshing that I had actual life goals beyond just existing paycheck to paycheck, that I owned real furniture that was not secondhand junk, and that I could plan a date that did not involve fast food and a Netflix subscription. Apparently, most of the guys she had dated thought basic adulting was some kind of personality disorder. Dating Caitlyn felt different from the very beginning. Real future conversations happened naturally. She would ask about my lease renewal, mention introducing me to her extended family, and joke about needing a garage for our future house when she saw me working on the Mustang. It did not feel like some casual thing where we were just seeing what happened. It felt like we were building towards something real. She even got invested in the Mustang project, which, honestly, blew my mind. Most women I had dated either pretended to care or made it obvious they thought my hobby was a waste of time and money. Caitlyn would bring me sandwiches while I worked in my building's parking garage and ask genuine questions about what I was doing. One Saturday, she even helped me sand rust off the quarter panels while wearing an old pair of coveralls she borrowed from her dad. Her family loved me from the jump. Her dad, Robert, was a retired postal worker. He was a total no-nonsense guy who appreciated that I showed up on time and kept my word. We spent Sunday afternoons in his workshop building cabinets for Patricia's sewing room while talking about football power tools and what it actually takes to build a life worth living. Robert's workshop was basically woodworking paradise. He had tools from his grandfather's carpentry business, all organized like a museum exhibit. He taught me proper woodworking techniques, but more than anything, he taught me that doing things right the first time saves you from doing them twice. Her mom, Patricia, treated me like the son she never had. She was always sending me home with enough leftovers to feed me for 3 days, asking my opinion on things, and genuinely investing in my success. She had this incredible garden with raised beds and an irrigation system, and she started teaching me about companion planting. She even let me help expand her greenhouse. Robert and Patricia constantly told Caitlyn how lucky she was, how I was a keeper, and how she would be crazy to let me go. Robert would drop hints about grandchildren. Patricia was always making comments about how their future grandkids would be well provided for with someone like me in the family. These people became my family before I even proposed. By March of 2022, I was ready to make it official. I had an $8,200 ring sitting in a safe deposit box at the bank. It was a white gold band with a princess-cut diamond that caught light like a disco ball. The plan was simple. Propose during our 2-year anniversary dinner at the Italian restaurant where we had our first date. Then start wedding planning with both families involved. 2 weeks before the proposal, I called Robert to ask for his blessing, like a decent human being. He actually got choked up on the phone. He told me he could not think of a better man for his daughter and said he had been waiting for that call since Christmas. He also told me he and Patricia had already started a savings account to help with the wedding because they wanted their only daughter to have the celebration she deserved. The proposal went perfectly. I got down on one knee right as dessert arrived. Caitlyn cried happy tears. Everyone in the restaurant applauded like we were in some romantic movie. She immediately FaceTimed her parents and they started crying too. She posted the ring on social media with a caption about finding her forever person. It was everything you are supposed to want. We started planning the wedding immediately because Caitlyn wanted a summer ceremony. Her mom knew an event coordinator who could get us into this gorgeous venue, an old barn converted into a reception hall with exposed beams and string lights. It was the kind of place that photographed like a fairy tale. We spent the next 3 months planning every detail. The guest list had 180 people. We hired a DJ who specialized in keeping everyone dancing. We booked a photographer who charged more than my first car, but had a portfolio that justified it. The whole production cost close to $35,000 between both families contributing. I handled most of the logistics because that is what I do. Caitlyn would get overwhelmed looking at too many options, so I would narrow things down and let her make the final call. It worked perfectly. Her bridesmaids were her college roommates and her cousin Rachel. My groomsmen were my 3 best buddies from high school, plus my brother-in-law. My bachelor party was a weekend fishing trip to a lake in upstate New York. Caitlyn's bachelorette party was a spa weekend that apparently involved a lot of gossip about how lucky she was. By May, everything was locked in. Invitations were sent, RSVPs collected, and final payments made to all the vendors. The rehearsal dinner was scheduled for Friday night at a steakhouse downtown. The ceremony and reception were set for Saturday afternoon, June 18th at 3 p.m. The week before the wedding, I moved most of my stuff into storage because Caitlyn and I were supposed to move into a bigger place after the honeymoon. It was a 2-bedroom apartment closer to her school, and it had an actual garage for the Mustang. We had signed the lease, paid first and last month's rent, plus the security deposit, and reserved a moving truck for the Monday after we got back from our honeymoon in the Outer Banks. Everything was perfect. Everything was planned. Everything was ready. Then Friday happened. The rehearsal dinner started at 6 p.m. Both families showed up dressed nicely, everyone excited and happy. We ran through the ceremony logistics with the officiant, who stood where, when the music cues happened, all the choreographed details that make weddings look smooth instead of chaotic. Caitlyn seemed distracted the entire time. She kept checking her phone during the walkthrough and giving half-hearted responses when people asked her questions. I figured she was just nervous about the big day. Wedding jitters are normal, right? Dinner itself was at this nice steakhouse we had picked out months earlier. We reserved their private room, ordered a bunch of appetizers, and did the whole rehearsal dinner thing. My dad gave a toast about how proud he was how Caitlyn was the daughter he never had, and how he could not wait to officially welcome her into our family. Robert got up and talked about watching his little girl grow up, and how he knew from day one that I was the right guy for her. Caitlyn barely touched her food. She just pushed it around her plate while staring at her phone under the table, like she thought nobody would notice. I leaned toward her and asked quietly, "Are you okay?" She nodded and said, "Yeah, I'm just tired. Long week at school. Wrapping up the semester." That sounded fair enough. 4th graders get wild at the end of the school year. I understood that. But then her phone buzzed and I watched her face go completely white. She excused herself to the bathroom and was gone for about 15 minutes. When she came back, her eyes were red, like she had been crying. I asked again, "Seriously, what's wrong?" She said, "Nothing. I'm just emotional about tomorrow." Happy tears. I should have pushed harder. I should have demanded to know what was really going on. But I did not want to make a scene in front of everyone, so I let it slide. That was red flag number 1 ignored. We left dinner around 9 p.m. Tradition says the bride and groom do not see each other the night before the wedding, so I went back to my buddy Jake's place where I was crashing and Caitlyn went to her parents' house where her bridesmaids were staying. Jake and I were watching TV and eating leftover pizza when he asked, "Dude, are you ready for tomorrow?" I said, "Ready as I'll ever be." I spent 2 months making sure every detail was perfect. He looked at me and said, "Caitlyn seemed kind of off tonight, though. You noticed that?" I shrugged it off. Wedding nerves. She'll be fine tomorrow. Jake gave me this look like he wanted to say something else, but decided against it. Looking back, I wonder if he saw something I did not want to see. My phone buzzed around midnight. It was a text from Caitlyn. "I love you so much. Tomorrow is going to be perfect." I replied, "Love you too. Can't wait to marry you. Get some sleep." That was the last normal conversation we ever had. I woke up at 7 a.m. Saturday morning in Jake's guest room. I pulled my suit out of the closet. It was a custom-tailored charcoal gray suit that cost more than I wanted to admit, but it looked sharp enough to justify it. I showered, got ready, and checked my phone. Nothing from Caitlyn, which seemed normal. She was probably dealing with hair, makeup, bridesmaid chaos, and whatever else happens on the bride's side before a wedding. The guys and I grabbed breakfast at a diner, killed a few hours, and then headed to the venue around noon. The ceremony was not until 3, but I wanted to be there early to make sure everything was set up right. The venue looked incredible. Someone had clearly been there since dawn, getting everything perfect. White chairs sat in neat rows facing a wooden arbor covered in flowers. String lights hung from the rafters even though it was still daylight. The reception tables were set with centerpieces and place cards. Everything looked exactly like we had planned. The photographers showed up at 1 p.m. to get ready shots of me and the groomsmen. We did the whole tie-tying, cufflink adjusting thing, while the photographer captured it for posterity, all of us trying to look natural while basically posing for staged photos that were supposed to look candid. Around 2 p.m., guests started arriving. They filled the white chairs row by row. My family was on one side, her family on the other, just like we had practiced. The DJ played soft background music. Everything was running like clockwork. At 2:30, I was standing up at the altar with the officiant and my groomsmen, watching people find their seats, checking my watch, and trying not to sweat through my expensive suit. My best man, Danny, kept making jokes to calm my nerves. He said, "Relax, man. In 30 minutes, you'll be married, and this will all be a blur." I told him, "That's what I'm counting on." At 2:45, the bridesmaids started walking down the aisle in their navy blue dresses. Everything was going according to plan. They took their positions across from us, smiling and holding their bouquets. Then we waited. And waited. And waited. The music that was supposed to cue Caitlyn's entrance just kept looping. People started shifting in their seats, checking their phones, and whispering to each other. I stood there, trying to look calm, while my heart was doing this weird hammering thing in my chest. 3:05 came. Still no bride. Patricia got up and practically ran toward the bridal suite. She came back 5 minutes later looking absolutely panicked. She whispered something to Robert and he immediately stood up. Both of them disappeared behind the venue. I looked at Danny and asked, "What the heck is happening?" He said, "I don't know, man. Maybe a dress emergency." But deep down, something in my gut knew this was not a dress emergency. At 3:15, the whispers were louder. People were full-on talking now, checking their phones and taking pictures of the situation like it was some kind of entertainment. I was still standing at the altar like an absolute idiot because what else was I supposed to do? That was when I saw him walk through the main entrance like he owned the place. He was tall, probably 6'2", wearing jeans and a leather jacket, like he had just rolled off a motorcycle. Dark hair stubble, the kind of guy who looked like he made bad decisions for a living and somehow made it work. He walked straight past all the seated guests, straight down the center aisle, straight toward the bridal suite in the back. Robert tried to stop him. I could see them having a heated conversation near the entrance to where the bridal party was getting ready. Robert was getting red in the face and pointing back toward the exit, but leather jacket guy just pushed past him and disappeared into the back. I was standing there in front of 180 people, watching this unfold like it was a movie I did not buy tickets for. 5 minutes later, Caitlyn emerged from the bridal suite in her wedding dress, holding leather jacket guy's hand and walking toward the exit. The entire venue went dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. Every single person watched as my fiancée, wearing the dress we had spent months picking out, holding the bouquet her mother made, wearing the veil her grandmother wore, walked past all our guests while holding another man's hand. She did not look at me. She did not look at anyone. She just kept her eyes forward and kept walking. I was frozen. I literally could not move. My brain had completely shut down trying to process what was happening. Patricia was crying. Robert looked like he might actually tackle the guy. The bridesmaids stood there with their mouths open. My groomsmen were all looking at me, waiting for some kind of signal about what to do. Caitlyn and the guy made it to the exit, and then she finally turned around. She looked directly at me for the first time. "I'm sorry," she said loud enough for the front few rows to hear. "I can't do this. Jordan came back, and I just can't." Then they were gone, out the door, into whatever vehicle he had shown up in. Gone. The venue erupted into chaos. People stood up, talked over one another, and some of Caitlyn's relatives ran after them. Patricia was sobbing, while Robert tried to console her and simultaneously looked like he wanted to commit violence. I was still just standing there at the altar. The officiant touched my shoulder and said, "Son, I'm so sorry." That was what snapped me out of it. The pity in his voice. The way everyone was looking at me like I was some kind of wounded animal. My brother-in-law walked up and asked Kyle, "Man, what do you need?" What did I need? I needed to rewind the last 10 minutes. I needed to understand what had just happened. I needed to not be standing at an altar in front of 180 people who had just watched my bride run off with someone else. But none of that was possible. So, I made a decision. I walked over to the DJ booth. The guy was standing there absolutely shell-shocked, not sure what to do with himself. I told him, "Change of plans. This isn't a wedding anymore. It's a going-away party." He blinked at me. What I said. "Play upbeat music, dance music, party music. We've got a room full of people, an open bar, and a reception dinner that's already paid for. Might as well use it." Then I grabbed the microphone before I could overthink it. "Everyone, can I have your attention, please?" The chaos started to die down. Everyone stared at me. I said, "As you just witnessed, there is not going to be a wedding today. Caitlyn made her choice, and I respect that." There were scattered murmurs. Patricia cried harder. I kept going. But here's the thing. We have this amazing venue, incredible food, an open bar, and a DJ who is very good at his job. All of it is paid for and non-refundable. I took a breath. So here is what is going to happen. This is now officially my going away party, because as of Monday, I am moving out of Pennsylvania and starting fresh somewhere new. And I want all of you, my family, my friends, the people who actually showed up for me today to help me celebrate the next chapter. There was dead silence for about 3 seconds. Then my dad started clapping, then my mom, then my sister, then Jake and Danny, and the rest of my groomsmen. Soon, the whole room was applauding. I said the bar is open, food will be served in 30 minutes, and the dance floor is ready. Let's make this a party worth remembering. The DJ, bless him, immediately switched to Lizzo. People started moving toward the bar. The energy shifted from funeral to celebration in about 5 minutes. I went to the bathroom and called my boss. "Hey Jim," I said, "you know that regional manager position in Colorado you mentioned last month?" "The one I said I'd think about?" he said. "Yeah, I'm ready to accept it if it's still available." There was a pause. "Kyle, isn't your wedding today?" "Not anymore. Long story. But I need out of Pennsylvania like yesterday. Can you make it happen?" He said, "Give me until Monday morning. I'll call you back." I hung up, splashed water on my face, and looked at myself in the mirror, still wearing that stupid expensive suit. "Well," I said to my reflection, "that just happened." Then I went back out to the reception. My family had basically formed a protective circle around me, making sure I was okay and asking what I needed. Robert and Patricia came up to me looking absolutely devastated. Patricia said through tears, "Kyle, we are so sorry. We had no idea. We didn't know she was even in contact with her ex." I asked, "Who is he?" Robert's jaw clenched. "Jordan. Her ex-boyfriend from college. They dated for 3 years before she met you. He moved to California for some job and they broke up. We thought that was ancient history." "Apparently not," I said. Robert started, "If I ever see him again, I interrupted him. Don't. He's not worth it. Neither is she, apparently. That hurt to say, but it was true. The party actually got pretty wild. People danced, drank, and ate this incredible plated dinner that some poor catering staff had to serve while processing the drama they had just witnessed. The photographer actually stayed and took pictures. He said it was the most memorable event he had ever shot. Somewhere around 8 p.m., after most of the older relatives had left, my friends convinced me to make a speech. I stood up and said, "Short version, Caitlyn chose someone else. I'm choosing myself. I'm moving to Colorado on Monday for a fresh start. This is the last time I'm talking about this, so everyone get it out of your system now. Ask your questions, say what you need to say, then we move forward." People ask the expected things. Was I okay? Did I see it coming? What was my plan? I answered honestly. No, I was not okay, but I would be. No, I did not see it coming because apparently I was terrible at reading signs. My plan was to leave Pennsylvania and never look back. My dad raised his glass and said, "To new beginnings." Everyone echoed, "To new beginnings." The party went until midnight. The DJ played every requested song. The bar stayed open. People danced like they were trying to sweat out the awkwardness of the whole situation. By the end of the night, it actually felt like a celebration instead of a tragedy. Sunday morning, I woke up in Jake's guest room with the worst emotional hangover of my life. I checked my phone expecting messages from Caitlyn. Nothing. No apology, no explanation, no acknowledgement that she had just blown up my entire life in front of 180 witnesses. But I did have 3 messages from her friends. The first was from Rachel, her cousin and bridesmaid. "Kyle, I'm so sorry. We had no idea she was planning this. She swore yesterday that she was 100% committed to marrying you. None of us knew Jordan was even in the picture." The second was from Melissa, her college roommate. "This is absolutely insane. Caitlyn completely blindsided everyone. We're all in shock. I just wanted you to know that we think she made a horrible mistake and you deserve so much better." The third was from Ashley, another one of her college friends. "Hey, I know this probably doesn't help, but Jordan showed up at her parents' house Friday night. Apparently, he had been texting her for weeks saying he made a mistake leaving her, that he wanted her back, and that he was moving back to Pennsylvania for her. She told us she had already told him no. Guess she changed her mind." So there it was, weeks of secret communication while we were planning our wedding. While I was coordinating seating charts, finalizing the menu, and making sure her parents felt included in every decision, she was having an emotional affair with her ex. He had promised her adventure, or excitement, or whatever I apparently was not providing. My boss called at 10 a.m. "The job is yours if you want it," Jim said. "Regional manager for the Mountain West Territory based in Denver. Salary bump, relocation assistance, company vehicle. Can you start in 2 weeks?" I said. "I can start Monday. Kyle, take a few days." "Jim, with all due respect, I need to get out of here immediately." There was a pause, then he said, "Monday works for me. HR will send over the paperwork. Welcome to Colorado." I spent Sunday packing my entire life into my truck and a small U-Haul trailer. I did not have much, since most of my furniture was already in storage for the move into the new apartment that was never going to happen. I called the landlord of that new place, explained the situation, and asked if he could return my deposit since I had never actually moved in. The guy was surprisingly cool about it and said he would mail the check to my parents' address. My family came over to help me pack. Nobody knew what to say, so they just worked. They loaded boxes, wrapped dishes, and took down wall art. My mom kept trying to get me to eat something, but I had zero appetite. My sister asked, "You're really leaving?" I said, "There's nothing left for me here." "What about your job? Your friends? The Mustang?" "I'm taking the truck. I'm quitting the job I already had because I got a better one. Jake is going to store the Mustang in his garage until I figure out how to get it to Colorado. Friends can visit, but I can't stay here." Robert and Patricia showed up around 3 p.m. Patricia was still crying. Robert looked like he had aged 10 years overnight. Robert handed me a check and said, "We wanted to return this. It's from the savings account we had for the wedding. We know it doesn't cover everything, but it's what we had set aside." I said, "Keep it." "Kyle, please," he said. "We feel responsible." "You're not responsible. You raised your daughter the best you could. What she chose to do is not on you." Patricia hugged me for a solid 2 minutes while crying into my shoulder. She said, "You'll always be family to us, no matter what. If you ever need anything, anywhere, you call us." I told her I will, but I knew I would not. By 7 p.m. Sunday night, everything I owned was packed. I said goodbye to my parents, my sister, and my buddies. I promised to stay in touch. I meant it in the moment, but I also knew things would fade once I left. Jake walked me to my truck. He said, "Man, I still can't believe this happened." I said, "Makes two of us." "You going to be okay out there?" "Eventually. I just need distance from all this." "Call me when you get there. And hey, the Mustang is safe with me. When you're ready to finish the restoration, I'll help you transport it." "Thanks, brother." I drove away from Jake's place at 8 p.m. and hit the highway heading west. I watched Pennsylvania disappear in my rearview mirror and did not look back. The drive to Denver took me 2 full days, with stops to sleep in the truck at rest areas. I had a lot of time to think, a lot of time to replay every moment of the relationship, looking for signs I had missed. The way Caitlyn had been distant during the last month. The way she had started talking about wanting to travel more, see more of the country, and not get tied down to one place. The way she had mentioned Jordan exactly twice in passing, both times saying he was just an old friend checking in from California. I should have known. I should have pushed harder when things felt off. But honestly, part of me was relieved. Better to find out who she really was before the wedding than after. Better to be humiliated in front of 180 people than get divorced in a year because she decided married life was too boring. I arrived in Denver on Monday afternoon. The company had set me up in a short-term corporate apartment while I looked for something permanent. I reported to the regional office Tuesday morning and dove into work like my life depended on it. New territory, new accounts, new challenges. Exactly what I needed. My first month in Denver was a blur. I worked 12-hour days learning the territory, meeting clients, and establishing relationships. I came home to an empty apartment, collapsed into bed, and repeated the same routine the next day. I did not post anything on social media. I did not update my relationship status. I did not acknowledge what happened except to tell my new coworkers that I had recently moved from Pennsylvania for a fresh start. My parents called weekly to ask how I was doing. I gave them the same answer every time. Fine. Staying busy. Adjusting well. Jake sent me updates about the Mustang and life back home. Apparently, Caitlyn and Jordan lasted all of 3 weeks before he decided Pennsylvania was too small town for him and went back to California. She tried calling Jake to ask for my new number. He told her to kick rocks. During one of our calls, Jake said, "Dude, she showed up at my place crying last week, full waterworks. She said she made the biggest mistake of her life and begged me to tell her how to reach you." I asked, "What did you say?" "I told her you moved on, and she should too." She tried the whole, "but we were going to get married" thing, and I reminded her that she was the one who ran out on the wedding. Not really your problem anymore. She say anything else? She kept saying she didn't realize what she had until it was gone. That Jordan promised her adventure and excitement, but it turned out he was just unemployed and living in his friend's spare room. Classic. I should have felt something when I heard that. Maybe vindication. Maybe satisfaction that karma had caught up with her. But I felt nothing. By my second month in Denver, I started actually living instead of just existing. I joined a gym, started hiking every weekend, and explored the city. Colorado was incredible. Mountains everywhere, craft breweries on every corner, and people who were friendly without being nosy. I met a group of guys through a hiking meetup, and they became my new crew. Nobody knew about my past, and I did not volunteer it. I just showed up, put in the work on the trails, and grabbed food afterward. Normal guy stuff. Around month 3, I started dating casually. Nothing serious, just coffee dates and dinners. I made it clear up front that I was not looking for anything heavy. The dating scene in Denver was completely different from Pennsylvania. Women there seemed more independent, less concerned with timelines and wedding plans. One woman I went out with, Lauren, asked me directly on our third date, "So, what's your deal? You seem great, but you've got this wall up." I said I moved here 6 months ago from Pennsylvania. Had some relationship stuff that didn't work out. I'm just taking things slow. We dated for a couple of months before we mutually decided we were better as friends. She introduced me to her social circle, which led to more friendships. Slowly, I was building a real life in Colorado. Work was going incredibly well. I exceeded my sales targets 3 quarters in a row. I got recognition from corporate. I was even sent to a leadership training program in Chicago. The promotion to regional manager was proving to be the best career move I had ever made. Meanwhile, my phone stayed silent. Caitlyn never got my new number. She never found me on social media. I had deactivated everything back in Pennsylvania, and she never tracked me down. As far as I knew, she had no idea where I had gone. That was exactly how I wanted it. By the 1-year mark, I had completely rebuilt my life. I had a new job I loved, new friends, new hobbies, and new routines. I bought a condo in a neighborhood I actually wanted to live in. I even started seriously dating someone named Ashley, a nurse at the local hospital whom I met through mutual friends. Ashley was the opposite of Caitlyn in every way that mattered. She was independent, straightforward, and had her own full life that I was invited to be part of instead of being expected to build everything around her. We had been together 6 months, and things felt comfortable without being suffocating. She knew about Pennsylvania, but not the details. She only knew I had left a bad relationship and moved west for work. She did not push for more information, and I appreciated that. One afternoon, Jake called while I was hiking with Ashley. He said, "Man, you're not going to believe this, but I need to tell you. Caitlyn is going full detective mode trying to find you." I asked, "What do you mean?" "She has been messaging everyone we know from high school, asking if anyone has heard from you. She showed up at your parents' house twice, but they told her to leave. She called your old job, but they wouldn't give her any information. She is legit trying to track you down." Why? From what I hear through the grapevine, Jordan left her again after she took him back the second time. Dude apparently has commitment issues or something. Now she has convinced herself that you were the one who got away and that she needs to make things right. I laughed. I could not help it. "That is not how this works," I said. "I know that, and you know that, but apparently she does not. Her mom, Patricia, called your mom last week practically begging for your contact info. Your mom told her absolutely not and said Caitlyn needs to move on. Good. Just wanted to give you a heads up in case she somehow finds you. Girl seems pretty determined. Thanks for the warning." I hung up and told Ashley the abbreviated version. She raised an eyebrow and said, "So your ex-fiancée who left you at the altar is now trying to track you down after her other relationship failed." Apparently. "And you are going to ignore her completely if she finds you, right?" "Obviously." "Good, because that is insane behavior. You do not owe her anything." "Exactly." The second warning came from my sister 2 months later. Kyle. She said, "Caitlyn somehow got my number and has been texting me asking where you are. I blocked her, but I wanted you to know she is still looking." Did she say what she wants? To apologize, to explain, to fix things. Her exact words. I told her there is nothing to fix because you have moved on, and she needs to do the same. She started going off about how you two were meant to be together, and how she made a mistake but has learned from it. I said, "She left me standing at an altar in front of everyone we know. There is no coming back from that." My sister said, "Preaching to the choir here. Just be aware that she seems pretty obsessed with finding you." The third sign came from Robert of all people. He texted me out of nowhere. "Kyle, I need to warn you. Caitlyn has been asking Patricia and me if we have any way to reach you. We told her no and said she needs to respect your privacy. She is not handling it well. I just thought you should know she is actively trying to locate you." I appreciated Robert's loyalty. He had always been a good guy who got stuck with a daughter who did not value the right things. But I was not worried. I had covered my tracks well. I changed my phone number, deactivated all social media, and moved across the country to a city where nobody from my old life had connections. Unless she hired someone to find me, which seemed extreme even for her, I was safe. By my second year in Colorado, life was legitimately good. I got promoted again to senior regional manager covering the entire Mountain West. Ashley and I had moved in together. We were talking about getting engaged eventually, but taking our time. I finished restoring the Mustang too. Jake had finally shipped it out, and I spent 6 months doing the final work in my condo's garage. Life was stable, happy, peaceful. Then my mom called, sounding stressed. Honey, she said, Caitlyn found me on Facebook and sent me this long message begging me to pass along her contact information to you. I did not respond, but I wanted you to know she is escalating. What did the message say? A lot of apologizing, a lot of I've changed, a lot of begging for another chance. She said she knows she does not deserve it, but she needs to at least talk to you to explain everything. I am not forwarding it. Good. Thanks for the heads up. But then the messages started coming through other channels. Jake received a Facebook message asking him to tell me Caitlyn was sorry and wanted to talk. My sister got a voicemail on her work phone somehow, asking her to pass along a message. Even my old college roommate got contacted through LinkedIn. She was casting a wide net, trying to find anyone who might know how to reach me. The most concerning one came from my dad. Son, he said Caitlyn showed up at our house again yesterday. Your mother called the police. She was served a trespassing warning and told not to come back.
This is getting out of hand. Did she say what she wanted?
Same thing she has been saying to everyone, that she made a mistake, that she is sorry, that she needs to talk to you. Your mother told her in no uncertain terms that you have moved on with your life and she needs to do the same. She started crying on our porch, saying her life fell apart without you. That is not my problem. I know, we are handling it. I just wanted you to be aware in case she somehow tracks you down in Colorado. That seemed unlikely. I had been careful, but then I got a LinkedIn connection request from an account with no photo and a generic name. I clicked into it, and the only detail was that the person worked in relationship counseling in Denver. I was immediately suspicious, so I declined and blocked it. 3 days later, another one came in. Same vague profile, same Denver location, different generic name. I blocked that one too. Then Ashley came home from work looking concerned. She said, something weird happened today. A woman came into the ER asking if I knew Kyle Morrison, who worked in industrial equipment sales. She said she was an old friend trying to reconnect. My stomach dropped. What did you tell her I said? I did not know anyone by that name and that I was not allowed to give out personal information about staff or patients. Anyway, she left, but something felt off about the whole thing. What did she look like? Ashley pulled out her phone and showed me a screenshot from the hospital's security footage. She had gotten it from the security team after the woman left because the situation seemed suspicious. And there she was, Caitlyn, standing in the emergency room lobby. She looked exactly like I remembered, but somehow more desperate. She had found me, not just my city, not just my general area. She had found my girlfriend's workplace. I told Ashley, that is my ex-fiancée, the one who left me at the altar. Ashley's eyes went wide. You're kidding. I wish I was. She has been trying to track me down for over a year apparently. Guess she finally succeeded. What are you going to do? Absolutely nothing. If she shows up here, we call the police. If she contacts me directly, I block her. She made her choice 2 years ago, and I moved on. Should we be worried? Like, is she dangerous? I do not think so. Just desperate and delusional. But I will file a police report tomorrow, just to have it on record. That night, I got a text from an unknown Colorado number. Kyle, I know you're in Denver. I know you've moved on. I know I don't deserve anything from you, but please just give me 5 minutes to explain everything. That's all I'm asking. Caitlyn. I stared at the message for a solid minute. 2 years earlier, that woman had walked out of our wedding, holding another man's hand, in front of everyone we knew. She had humiliated me, destroyed months of planning, threw away everything we had built. And now, she wanted 5 minutes to explain. I blocked the number and went to bed. So here we are, Reddit. 2 years since the wedding that was not. 2 years since I stood at an altar watching my fiancé choose someone else. The last I heard from my family, Caitlyn was still trying to find ways to contact me. Apparently, she got wind that I was with Ashley and started messaging my sister, asking if we were serious, if we were engaged, and if there was still a chance for her. My sister's response was perfect. He is happy. Leave him alone. But Caitlyn would not. I got another LinkedIn request last week from another fake account. This one had a detailed backstory about working in industrial equipment. It even had fake job listings, but the location was Denver and something about it felt off. I blocked it immediately. Jake called yesterday with another update. Dude, he said Caitlyn is apparently doing some soul searching, trying to process her mistakes or whatever. Someone suggested she write you a letter to get closure. Her friends are telling her to just let it go, but she is convinced you are her soulmate or some nonsense. I'm not reading any letters. That is what I told her when she asked me to forward one. I said you moved on and she needs to do the same. Did she say anything else? Just that Jordan leaving her the second time made her realize she gave up the best thing that ever happened to her, that she took you for granted because you were stable and reliable while she was chasing excitement, that she has grown up now and knows what actually matters. Cool story, I said. Still, not my problem. Ashley and I are talking about getting engaged this year. She knows the whole story now, not just the abbreviated version, but every detail about Caitlyn, the wedding and the escape to Colorado, all of it. Her response was simple. You dodged a bullet and built a better life. Do not let someone who did not appreciate you then ruin what you have now. And she is right. Caitlyn made her choice in front of 180 people. She walked out wearing the dress, holding the bouquet, and choosing the man she thought was more exciting. She got exactly what she chose. Then, when that choice collapsed, she looked back at the life she threw away and decided she wanted it returned to her, like a receipt for a bad purchase. But I am not a backup plan. I am not a safe option waiting on a shelf for the moment her exciting disaster falls apart. I was ready to build a life with her, and she chose to burn it down in the most public, humiliating way possible. So, I built a new one, without her. And the best part is, I do not hate her anymore. I do not miss her. I do not wonder what could have been. I do not sit around imagining some dramatic confrontation where I finally tell her everything she deserves to hear. I already said everything I needed to say by leaving. I turned the worst day of my life into the beginning of a better one. I took the reception she ruined and made it my going-away party. I drove west with everything I owned packed into a truck and a trailer. I started over in a city where nobody knew me as the guy who got abandoned at the altar. Now I have a career I am proud of, a home I chose for myself, friends who know me for who I am. Now a restored Mustang in my garage and a woman beside me who values peace more than drama and commitment more than fantasy. Caitlyn can keep searching. She can send letters, fake LinkedIn requests, messages through old friends, and apologies through anyone willing to listen. She can keep telling people she made a mistake, that she has changed, that she finally understands what she lost. I believe her when she says she lost something, but that does not mean she gets it back.